Hello everyone, I am Tiberius Dawnbringer. Welcome back to my channel yet again. And I am going to continue with my little series about stones associated with each of the chakras, at least the stones that I have, that I work with. I did the root chakra in the previous video, and I did not realize until I finished that video how many stones I had that were associated with the root chakra, which was about a dozen. Excuse me. But today the chakra I'm going to work on is the Sacral Chakra, and I only have 4 stones associated with that one, so this might actually be a short video. We shall see. So let's get started, shall we? The first stone I have on the list is Carnelian, and this is one of my favorite stones simply because of the color itself. I have 2 of them, and Carnelian is usually this beautiful deep orange color. And here's a bigger piece. I don't know if we can get it in the lighting. Yeah, there we go. You can kind of see, well, it disappeared. There we go. You can kind of see that there's different layers going up and down inside of it, but it's all orange. Yeah, they're very pretty stones. I like them. Let's go over the properties of the Carnelian stone. So Carnelian is a stabilizing stone with high energy. It restores vitality and motivation. Creativity, courage, confidence, it promotes. It's a lucky stone for job interviews. I personally cannot attest to that. I've never had to try that before, but somebody else must have, otherwise it wouldn't be on the list. I don't know. Joy, good luck, and calms anger and replaces with love. That's alone is something we all could use, I think. You know, aren't you tired of living in a world where everything is, well, not everything, but a lot of daily life is affected by anger in some way? You know, I mean, we go through our lives not even thinking about it, but in truth, like, you wake up, there have been days where I wake up and I feel great, and I spend the first 2/3 of the day at home just doing stuff, either around the house or outside the house in nature, whatever, you know, and I feel great and happy, and I noticed that I'm like, you know, I haven't had a moment of anger or frustration or anything like that. And I'll be like, yeah, you know what, I want to go get some food somewhere for dinner tonight, or I'm going to a friend's house, or whatever, something that gets me to go out of the house. And you probably already guessed it, but as soon as I get on the road and start driving, somebody somewhere does something that there's that split second, at very least there's like that split second where I'm just like, you know. And yeah, so it's like, man, I almost made it the whole day without there being a moment of anger, you know. And that's just a small silly example, but you know, on a more serious note, there is a lot of examples of anger and frustration throughout our lives on a daily basis, and we don't even really, I don't want to say we don't recognize it, but we don't acknowledge it as much, because that's just what we're used to. That's the kind of life and society that we've been growing up in, is that this is normal to experience anger and frustration and suffering every single day of our lives. And nobody really questions that. Well, people question it nowadays, but for a long time people didn't really question that, because that's just what they were used to. That was normal, you know. So anyways, I will get back on track and start off with the next stone, which I only have one of, but it's a big piece, and this is Sunstone. All right, Sunstone. This is a nice piece. It looks mostly pink, but it's really just like an off orange most of the time. I guess there's some pink in there with white, and you can see there's a couple black specks. There's a little bit there too. This piece doesn't have a lot of black in it, but I've seen pieces that's like just huge specks all throughout the piece. So, but anyways, this is a good stone, a masculine stone, or rather it's a stone that kind of promotes masculine energy, which, you know, the sun is considered a masculine energy, just like the moon is considered a masculine energy, the moon is considered a feminine energy. And so Moonstone is on this list. I'll be doing it after this one. Moonstone is associated with feminine energies as well. So, you know, Sunstone is associated with masculine energy. So it's a gentle healing stone, wards off negativity. It's an antidepressant, promotes self-worth and confidence. It's good for grid work and symbolizes hopefulness. Now, grid work, I'll give you a short explanation of grid work because I haven't done it myself, but I've seen other people do it and I've learned a bit about it. Grid work is something that people do. You do with the stones. Usually they're tinier specimens than what you would normally get. Like, you might be able to use some this size, you know, no big deal, but I've seen most grid work layouts that I've seen are like these tiny, like just dozens of these tiny small clear quartz crystals that they set up into like patterns, and like, you know, they do grid lines and such, and then they'll put like other stones mixed in throughout it. It depends on the kind of effect you're trying to get from the actual grid work itself. Most of the time I've known people to do grid work for the purpose of protection in their homes when people are experiencing, you know, odd occurrences that people aren't comfortable with, or perhaps something like an actual dense negative kind of experience going on within the house, whether it be, you know, something related to a ghost or poltergeist or some other form of negative entity, anything like that. Or maybe you're one of those people that for some reason you have not so good people just showing up in your life, and maybe they're trying to deal, you know, not so good things to you at your home, in your home kind of thing. But anyways, whatever the example might be, that's usually the kind of examples I see when it comes to grid work, is that people will you know, build crystal grids within their homes to promote protection. And, you know, a lot of those grids are, they use clear quartz, which to me is like kind of like a staple stone. It's like the base foundation of any grid is going to be with clear quartz crystals. But for protection, if you remember from my last video when we talked about root stone chakras and all that, a lot of the black stones that deal heavily with protection, such as obsidian, tourmaline, and onyx, I want to say, jet. There's a bunch more, but that's just a few to name off. But people will mix in those particular stones within the grid work itself, the layout of the grid. It's usually done in a circular pattern, usually, but not always. Yeah, that's what grid work is usually about. I've participated in a manifestation ceremony a few times, and there was a grid that was built out by the person that was facilitating the ceremony, and it was set up with stones that pretty much focused around abundance and such, because we're trying to manifest the business growing bigger, and we wanted to, us and a small group of other like-minded individuals wanted to pretty much, we wanted to manifest a healing center that we would all be a part of in some way. And it definitely was a very big project. And so we did 3 or 4 ceremonies, and they always had that same grid layout, and we placed it in the center of our group when we were doing the meditation for the ceremony, and it was pretty awesome. It was a beautiful grid. I cannot remember the stones that were in it because this was last year, and that's just how my memory is. Sorry. But I'm willing to bet that there was probably like citrine involved in some point, because when I think of abundance, the first stone that comes to my mind is citrine. But that's going to be in a different video. It's going to be the next video where I talk about stones that are associated with the solar plexus chakra, and citrine is one of those stones that will be on the list. So, I was like, how did I get off on that tangent? But it's grid work. Grid work, Sunstone is good for grid work. So, yeah. Anyways, so we're going to go from the Sunstone, the masculine, to the feminine, or the Moonstone. I want to say I've mentioned these in a previous video, but I'm going to introduce them again anyways. So I have 2 of them, and this is just a regular Moonstone. They are more of like a pink, white, sometimes a little bit of peach in there. There are peach moonstones. I don't have any, but they do exist. And sorry, I'm trying to get my finger out of the way so you can see more of the stone. But yeah, it's pretty much like a, pinkish whitish color. I kind of think of like a clam, or kind of like a clam, like when you open up a clam, the meat inside, it kind of reminds me of that color, or almost Caucasian, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I don't have it written down. Like there's like a half dozen different forms of Moonstone. There's just, the original form of Moonstone. There's peach Moonstone, coffee Moonstone, black Moonstone, not Snowflake Moonstone. No, I'm thinking of Snowflake Obsidian. Rainbow Moonstone. Sorry, that's it. Rainbow Moonstone, which I do have a piece, but I'm saving it for another video because that particular stone is not associated with the Sacral Chakra. At least, not that I've come across. So anyways, I'll go over the properties real quick, and then I'll talk about what I use these moonstones for, because I use these for a particular reason within my Reiki work. So, this moonstone, okay. Apparently, this moonstone is associated with the heart and solar plexus chakras, but I always use it for sacral chakra purposes. And I honestly don't know why it's not associated with the sacral as much work as I do with this for that particular reason. But I'm still adding it to this video anyways. So, there you go. Heart and solar plexus plus sacral. So it cleanses the mind of negative emotions. Promotes fertility, sensuality, inner goddess energy, or feminine energy. Opens heart chakra, balances hormones, very important, and helps to love openly. Now, this is great for, I'll just come out and say it, when I have a client who is experiencing their monthly cycle, their menstruation cycle, this is the first thing I go for when I am working with someone like that. This and Bloodstone, which I mentioned in the last video, because Bloodstone helps with body and blood disorders, and it talks about filtering out, detoxifies the body and such, and that's essentially what the body is doing. It's pretty much ridding itself of the old blood that was inside of the uterus to make room for the new blood that's going to come in and do its thing, right? So yeah, I will put these like where the belt line is on your pants or whatever. I'll take these stones and I'll tuck them underneath it like halfway so that it will just hold them in place. And that's pretty much right on top of where the sacral chakra is located on the body to begin with. So that I don't have to worry about these stones like rolling off if the person like breathes in deep and they breathe in through their stomach, which you're supposed to do anyways. They won't go sliding off and disrupt the whole thing or whatever. But I will put these on the person. I will use those because the energy from that stone, from those stones, is very powerful and pretty much helps to reduce, if not negate, the discomfort and pains and cramps that you experience from that cycle. And this is something that I worked on for a few months and became proficient with it, and I try to use it to promote my work because, to be honest, 90% of my clientele are female, are women. And I figured being proficient with this kind of work, being like, hey, I could take that painful experience and make it zilch or close to it within like 30 minutes to an hour. I figured that would draw in a lot of people, and I've gotten a few that way. But yes, that is what I almost always use Moonstone for, is for that particular item that I'm talking about. But anyways, I will move on from that, and I will go on to the last stone, which is one of my favorites. It's a pretty stone, I think, and it's a good size one too. This is honey calcite. This is a delicious looking stone, if you don't mind me using that kind of terminology. But yes, I was gifted this stone. Its previous owner had it out on her shelf, and every time I came in, I would I would always look at least a few times, and I'd stare at it and I'd mention it, and I'm like, man, it literally looks like honey. And you know, honey is sweet and delicious, and I don't know, I guess I'm kind of weird that way, but yeah, I just fixated on it. And she eventually was like, you know what, I feel like this is drawn to you, I feel like it's calling to you. And so she gifted it to me, and I've had it ever since. So this wonderful thing, this beautiful stone, what does it do? Let's see. Well, it is associated with the sacral and solar plexus chakras, so I'm still going to mention in this video. It is a stone of empowerment, helps us regain our personal power by easing our troubles and worries during challenging times, enabling us to realize we are strong enough to persevere through anything. That's just one property. It enhances confidence, motivation, and willpower, and which a lot of solar plexus stones are about: courage, confidence, motivation, willpower, but I'll save that for the next video. And it helps to calm our anxious, overactive minds, facilitating inner harmony and peace. It is a very nice stone. I like it a lot. I try to carry it around my pocket every once in a while, but it is kind of a big stone, so yeah, I notice it when it's in my pocket. So, but anyways, yeah, I know I only had 4 stones that were associated with the chakra, sacral chakra, but you know, that's just the way it is. I just get the stones that I'm drawn to, and you know, what calls out to me. And that's how you should do it. Just at 20 minutes, I got a few extra seconds I could probably explain to you. So if you go to a place like a holistic shop that sells stones and such, most of the time when I worked at this one place, most of the time somebody would come in and be like, what stone should I get for this, or what stone should I get for that? And we help them, we tell them which stones are associated with it. We'll bring out the stones. We'll maybe even like pour the stones out and let them sift through the stones, and they're like, well, how do I know which one is the one for me? And we tell them the same thing every time. It's like, you look for the stone, look at them, pick them up, hold them, feel them. But essentially, you will know when the stone is meant for you. You will feel it, Sometimes people just look at a stone and are like, that's the one. Most of the other times, people will like narrow it down and pick them up. And I do that sometimes too. I have to feel them sometimes. If I can't narrow it down to just one stone, I'll pick them up individually and I'll see how they feel. And that's how I narrow it down, but that's usually what we tell people to do. I've had experiences where I will pick up a stone and I will immediately just like drop it down. The way I can describe it is like when you see someone pick up a toddler and the toddler like squirms and worms its way out of the parent's grip. That's what energetically it feels like in my hand, is something is just like trying to get out. And I'm going to turn this down. And it's just blah, and it just drops out. I'm like, all right, cool. You're not meant for me. You didn't want to go with me. That's fine. Scoot. And then move on to the next one. I've had other times where I'll pick up a stone that's like this size, right? It's not that big. It weighs almost nothing. But I'll pick it up and it will feel heavy, like energetically heavy, maybe even like physically heavy. If you pick up something that's this size and it feels like it's this size, that tells me that it's not meant for you either, because the reason why it feels heavy is it's like, I want out of your hand. So if it's heavy, your hand kind of gets drawn down, and what are you going to do? You're going to just put it out of your hand. Right? It's like, oh, this feels heavy. That's how it feels for me. If it's heavy, it means it's not for you. If it's light, that's a good sign. It's probably good for you. That it wants to go with you. I've known people that pick up and it just like their entire mood just changes. I've seen someone pick up a stone and they went, and it's like, okay, that was a huge change. Clearly that stone enjoys you and you enjoy the stone. But yeah, I could give a lot more examples, but ultimately it's just how it feels. Like whether you're looking at it, whether you're just standing next to it, if you're really sensitive to energies like that, then maybe that's all you need. But most people have to pick up things, they have to feel things. Humans are still used to tangible things. So that's just kind of how we identify with things. So when you pick it up and you feel certain things from it, or you feel a certain way about it, you just go with how you feel. Listen to your heart, essentially. But anyways, that's just my experience with that particular topic. So that is my video about the stones that I work with. They're associated with the Sacral Chakra. And in continuation with the, direction or pattern I'm going in, the next video will be about stones that I have. They're associated with the solar plexus chakra. Okay? So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I appreciate you. I thank you for exchanging time and energy with me in this endeavor. And I would like to express my gratitude to all of you. And I will see you next time. Thank you.